Today we're going to take a look at the Old Testament. And I know most people read the Old Testament or glance at it. They don't actually read it all the way through. But they glance at it and they get scared because it looks like they're staring into the face of an angry God. He's zapping people, wiping people out. The guy just tried to save the ark. Why did he kill me? That whole thing. But I need you to understand that the New Testament was concealed inside of the Old Testament. And the Old Testament is revealed in the New. It's 66 books by 40 different authors. And it's one cohesive message. It's one cohesive call to know God. Now, some of us may be married. We may have a significant other. We may have a partner. We may have somebody that we're really interested in. But you will never, if you are married to them for 75 years, you will never know them. They will never open up so that there is absolutely nothing, because there's stuff in there that they don't even realize is there. They're never going to do that. But the God that brought you here this morning has opened himself up completely to you. He's hiding nothing from you. He says, taste and see that I am good. He's not afraid of your questions. He's not afraid of your doubt. He's not afraid of your anger. He's waiting for you. And he says, I'm here. So if you have that book on your coffee table that you need to blow the dust off of, if you only have a copy of the 75-pound version, I'd like to tell you that it comes online now. And you can get a thin line version, so you're not weightlifting trying to read it. But read the word. Meet the Father. You're not sitting in these seats or you're not online by accident. He called you here. And that kind of brings me to where I want to go today. I want to introduce you in a way that you may never have thought about him before to my friend Moses. Now, the reason why I call Moses my friend is because Moses and I got a lot in common. God says, I want you to do, and I give him 13 reasons why he missed me. It was the other one over there. I'll let you call her. And we all do that. We all do that. So I know y'all are holier than me, but that's one I'm not going to give you. I know the Lord calls you to do stuff, and you start explaining to him why you can't. And that's what Moses did. But Moses ended up being one of the members of the Hall of Faith. And it wasn't because he was perfect. When God first called Moses, Moses was in the wilderness. And the reason he was in the wilderness is because he had committed a murder. And he was running from the authorities. Moses did not know who God was. So if you're new to Christianity, understand Moses had a new day too. He had no idea. And we know that he didn't know who God was because in his trying to explain why he shouldn't be called, he said, who do I tell him sent me? Now, we forget because when we're reading the Bible, it's real compressed for us. But the Hebrews had been enslaved for 400 years. So all that amazing knowledge of God and what God does and his power and who he was to Abraham, who he was to Isaac, who he was to Jacob, all of that information got locked up for 400 years. And they weren't walking in it. And if you're trying to understand what that's like, I don't know how many second-generation Latinas or Latinx people that we have in this room, but 400 years ago, less than 400 years ago, the Latin people, the indigenous people of Mexico were worshiping Quetzalcoatl. You guys don't know who Quetzalcoatl is now? And if that doesn't hit you, if you're a second generation or first generation American, how much of your native culture do you not know? If you're from some other part in the world, how much don't you know? So think about 400 years with nobody. There were no services. There were no prayer meetings. None of that was happening. They knew the Egyptian gods because those were the ones that they saw every day. They had forgotten the God of Joseph. They weren't in connection with the God of Joseph. But if you said Isis to them, they'd have known exactly who you were talking about. If you said Osiris, they would have known who you were talking about. It didn't stop them from being the people that God chose to move forward with, to fulfill his promise with, but it did limit their knowledge of who they belonged to. And our knowledge is limited also. So when we now meet Moses, Moses is wandering around feeding sheep, training for the sheep he was about to get. And God called him, just like he called you this morning, said you need to go to church. You need to gather together. He called you, same way. And then as Moses gets there, God sends him on this mission. And the mission that he sent him on was to get his people out of that bondage so he could begin the promise. So as he's beginning the promise, he has to go deal with Pharaoh. And by the way, Pharaoh was the one that was hunting for him for the murder. So God sent him back into where the problem had been. But he didn't send him alone. He sent him with Aaron. And for those of you who kind of shy away from reading the Bible is funny. God sent Aaron with Moses because Moses told him, I'm slow of tongue, meaning he stuttered. I can't talk. And as you're reading, you're waiting for Aaron to say something. Aaron says nothing. Moses talked the whole time. So don't worry. God will handle where he sends you. Where he sends you, he provides. He's not going to send you out there and go, okay, yeah, well, how does that work for you? It's not what he does. But Moses goes back into Egypt, and Moses takes on the pantheon of Egyptian gods. See, we just think of those as being plagues and curses that would cause the people of the Pharaoh of Egypt to let the people go. No, God systematically brought down every god the Egyptians worshipped. And the last on the list was Pharaoh. When I tell you the Bible is a funny book, it's a serious one, but God knows you need to laugh. The dumbest answer to any question ever asked in the Bible is in Exodus. The second plague was frogs. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a real frog fan unless they're a little statue. I can deal with the statue, but the hopping around thing, no. They had frogs in their bed. They had frogs in their kitchen. They had frogs in their bathwater. They had frogs everywhere. And Pharaoh's magicians, trying to undo what God had done, added frogs. So they had frogs, literally frogs coming out of their ears. And Moses and Aaron go back into Pharaoh because he summons them because he's sick of the frogs. And he says, you got to get the frogs out of here. And then I'll let your people go. I'll let them go out to worship. And so Moses said, okay, when do you want me to get rid of them? Dumb answer, tomorrow. You got frogs in your food and you were willing to deal with the frogs until tomorrow. Dumb answer. But it's there, and it's there for you to do what you just did, laugh. Because that's a man thing. When God finished demolishing all of the gods of Egypt, the last one he took out was Pharaoh. Because he cut off Pharaoh's line when he took out his firstborn son. Pharaoh at this point turns and says, okay, look, he did it because of pressure from his people. They were like, you got to get rid of these folks. They ain't bringing nothing but bad luck to us. You have to get rid of them. So he was willing to let them go. Side note, God sent the Hebrews to knock on the doors of the people who had enslaved them for 400 years and asked for their retro check. They asked for their jewelry. They asked for their price. And they gave it to them because they were so ready for them to go. They walked out free people, but they really still did not know who their God was. They had seen all the amazing things God did with those plagues to get them out of Egypt, but they really didn't know him. So when they come to the shore of the Red Sea, by this time, Pharaoh has figured they have stolen all his money. So he's chasing down his money. He wants to get his money back. The Lord parted the Red Sea for them, and they walked through the Red Sea on dry ground, and Pharaoh chased them. And once they were all out, God closed the sea up and drowned Pharaoh's army. They began to walk towards their meeting place with God. And just like people, like we all are, I'm thirsty. You brought me out here and you didn't even think about how much water I needed. I need some water. I'm thirsty. I'm hungry. You brought us out here. Back when we were in Egypt, and we've all done it, back when we were in Egypt, the food was so good. We're not thinking about the slavery. We're just thinking about the growl in the stomach right now. We had leeks and we had all of this stuff. And Moses continues to move. Moses took a ragtag people who were trying to become a nation and demolished the Amalekite army. God did that for them. When they finally reach Sinai, the mountain of God, and God shows up to meet them, and they did a very Hollywood thing. They looked at Moses and said, we'll have your people meet with his people and you can come back and tell us what he said. They literally told him, no, you go listen to God and then come back and tell us, because if we go up there, he's going to kill us. Now, this was a God that had showed up to meet them. And in their humanness, their fear was so great, they didn't want to. So are we feeling ourselves in here somewhere? Because you should. That's a human response. We do that to our pastors and leaders in the Bible. Oh, you go meet with God, and then you come down there and tell us what he said. We'll come every Sunday to hear what God told you. And God is saying, I want to talk to you personally. I'm not going to tell you too much more because I really want to trigger a hunger for you to go read Exodus. But it comes to a point where God says, okay, here are the 10 commandments. This is what I want you. These are the rules, and not really rules. These are the things that will keep you moving through life with a lot less problem. So that was what he gave them. And it's actually over 600. But when he gave them that, Moses came back down. In the time that God was giving him the answers that they needed, they decided to build a God for themselves. And to add insult to injury, not only did they build it for themselves, they said it was the God that brought them out. They literally turned it into God, the one that had set them free. Well, Moses came down and he had a bit of a hissy fit, and push comes to shove, we end up with a lot of dead people. And Moses is frustrated. And God is like, look, I'm going to wipe them out and I'll start over with you. and God did something amazing. It's something that God does to pastors and to leaders. God used Moses' words to show Moses how much he actually cared about the people. Because Moses began to negotiate with God. He was like, look, don't do that. Because if you do that, everybody who's heard about what you did in Egypt are going to say, you just brought him out here to kill him. I'm going to all of these things because I'm going to want to take you through Moses' life. I want you to feel him a little bit. Because right after this occurs, God calls a dinner party. 70 leaders from the tribes, Moses and Joshua, go up the mountain and have a dinner party with God. And that's in chapter 24. I will give you that cheat. They're actually there with him, eating with him. He fed them. And then he called Moses aside from the dinner table. And this is where the one verse that I'm going to use today to talk to you comes into play. So if you can put up the first portion of that verse. God says to Moses, let me read it for you. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Come up to me on the mountain and be there." Didn't tell him to do anything else but come up there and be there. He was calling Moses to be in the moment with him. Now, I just told you all the stuff that Moses had been through, all the miracles he had seen, all the wonders of God that had been performed before him. How many of us are still reliving a glory day? You caught that pass, you made that shot, you got that time, you hit that ball, your prom date, your wedding day, all of that great stuff. And it wasn't bad. It was an amazing stuff, but God was telling him, don't bring that up here. Don't come up here thinking about that. Now, here's the other side. He had a whole nation that was waiting for him to come back down and tell them what to do next. The elephant in the room for us right now is anxiety. We all are, I can ask you to raise your hand, but I would be willing to say that in this room and on the chat, we've had a conversation at some point in the last 2 years with somebody who mentioned the word anxiety. They were worried about something they had done wrong, or they were afraid of a situation that's coming up, and how do I get ready for tomorrow? And anxiety, worry, and fear paralyzes you. It doesn't give you the answer. The situation is still going to come, or the situation has already passed, and there's nothing you can do about it. God called Moses to be in the moment with him, in his presence, in the moment. And he's called you to be in the moment. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't run out and say, Pastor Ronnie said I got to go spend 40 days on a mountain. Nope. You can spend 5 minutes in your shower, in the moment with him. Not thinking about what you have to do, and not thinking about what you've already done. And the reason for this is because the answer to your tomorrow is in the moment with him. The second half of that verse says, "And I will give you tablets of stone and the law and the commandments which I have written, that you might teach them." He's telling Moses here that he had the answer for all the stuff that Moses was worried about, that he was going to have to figure out how to do. And he's telling you that he has the answers to everything that is facing you. I liken it to LA traffic, and we can all recognize LA traffic. When you're sitting in traffic on Friday afternoon on the 10-101 interchange, do you roll down your window and ask the guy in the car next to you, why is the traffic not moving? You don't do that. You turn on KFI, you find a radio station with a traffic broadcast on. For my millennials, you pick up your phone that you're not supposed to be using while you're driving, and you look for what, you use Waze to try to figure out how to get around it. But you're not getting the answer to your problem from right here. You're getting the answer from up here. You're getting the answer from someone who knows what's up ahead. So you know how to get off, where to detour, what's going on. And I hope your life is not like a traffic jam on a Friday afternoon, But I know that there is stuff in all of our lives that is like that traffic jam. We don't need the information to come from the spouse, from the friend, from the coworker, because the questions that we are asking are beyond their ability, not necessarily their desire, but beyond their ability to answer for you. But God says, come up here and be. And when you are, you get the answers. You get the answers. I don't stand here and tell you this or speak to you on this because I'm any different from you. I'm standing here because if I turned around and let you see the back of my head, you can see the knots that I got from not doing it this way. You can see the times that I stumbled when I didn't have to, when all I had to do was seek him. He tells you, seek first my kingdom, and everything else will be added unto you. He says, taste and see that I am good. Seek, knock, and answer. He constantly calls us to him for the answer. And we go to Google. and we don't even know if Google is giving us the right answer. But we know that if God gives us an answer, it's the right one. Now, the other part of that is it might not be one you understand in the moment. It might be an answer that has you going, I don't get that. Because God has a way of encouraging conversation. Because when he gives you an answer that you don't understand, what is the next thing you need to do? Ask him what he means. And the second part of the answer might be just as confusing as the first. But he's drawing you into himself. He's calling you. How did you get to know your mate? How did you get to know your best friend? You spent time with them. Not biblical vernacular, but you hang out. How much do you hang out with God? I know people have this mindset that I got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I got to pray at 5 o'clock in the morning for a solid hour. And when that doesn't work, the enemy jumps right in with failure. Failure. One of the first questions you might want to ask God is, what is your watch? If he's got you up at midnight, it might be midnight that you need to be praying. If you get up in the morning and the first words out of your mouth is, thank you, Father, for waking me this morning. And then you go through your day and where you recognize that he's touched you or you've seen something, a little wink from him about your day, acknowledge him. But don't set yourself up to fail, because once you get into the skid of failing, you will give up on communicating with him. Because you have disappointed him. I'm just not good at this. I'm just not good enough. You go right into Moses explaining how come he can't do it. When we go to the Father, the one thing that we need to do, we have to do, we must do, is come real. Come real. If you're mad, come real. If you're scared, come real. You do not have to be his grown men and women. You are his children. And that means you can come to him with everything you've got, no matter how it feels. No matter how you can come to God madder than you can to your spouse. Coming to God real is when you begin to see he truly is God. Because he's not going to reject you because you're mad. He's not going to reject you because you blew it. He's not going to reject you because you made a mistake. Man will. Even those that you love dearly might. But God is not going to do that. Now, the one thing I want to warn you, don't come at him faking and shaking, because he will He will peep your whole card. And what I mean by faking and shaking, don't come saying, oh, Lord, how thus great thou art, when you having a God, why did you do that moment. He knows you. He knows you intimately. He knows you mad. Now, you can put on a face for us, and we think you have no issues and everything is great and rosy, but God knows who you are. He knows where you are, and he knows what you are going through. And he says very plainly, you have not because you ask not. So when you go in faking and pretending that you don't need nothing, guess what you get? Nothing. And then you get mad at God. Well, God, didn't you know that I needed it? Did you ask me? Did you ask for it? Did you spend time with me finding out what my plans for you are? Or did you just think I was going to sprinkle some dust on you and make it all right? You ask me for something, and you're going, I've been waiting on you to do this. And I'm going to tell on Pastor Ronnie, Lord, it only took you 7 days to make the whole world. Why is it taking you so long to answer this prayer? Yeah, I know y'all holier than me, so you don't do that, but I did that. And his answer was, because you're not ready. His answer was truly, you are not ready. I have to get you ready before I can give this to you, because I will not set you up to fail. I will not have you fall on your face. I want your success. I want to see you make it. I want to see this happen in your life. This is part of my plan for you. This is a good thing, but I am not going to give you something that you can't handle. And he's not going to give you something you can't handle either. So when you ask those big asks, when you get those prayers and you're asking God to give you something, get ready for some stretching. Because he's going to start making the changes that are necessary in you so that you can achieve what you've asked for. And I want to stamp something into your mind. You would not hand a 2-year-old a cast iron skillet and tell him to go make eggs. You wouldn't. But you might take a 13-year-old to the stove and show them how to make eggs, because they're ready for it. Are you ready for what you're asking God for? Are you allowing him to get you ready? And I say it that way because it's not about you making yourself ready. You've got the hardest part of this job. You have to yield. You have to allow him, because he's not going to wrestle you to the ground and take it from you. He wants to do this in, through, and with you. It is an invitation to the greatest relationship you could possibly imagine. And it's not just for you. It's for your children. It's for your friends. It's for your family. It's for the people you haven't even met yet. So that you can be that bush that's burning, but not consumed. So that he can put you on a hill, or as Jesus said, on a lampstand, so that people might see and come and be comforted in that presence. But if you are so stuck on yourself and so prideful that you are playing church and you are faking it with God because you want God to think you got it all together, it will only delay what you are asking for. Because God's not going to give up on you. He is patient. He will wait, literally. Step to the side and go. And when you've taken it so far that you go, oh, God, you got to help me. It's like, okay, it's my turn now, right? And this is not unique to you. And it's not unique to me. This is the state of fallen man. We are all that way. And every one of those people that we read about in the hall of faith, whether it's David, whether it's Abraham, whether it's Sarah, whether it's Rahab, whether it's Paul, Peter, Every last one of them is going through this. The only difference, whether they went through it 2,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, or today, right now. The Lord wants to talk to you, and he's not mad at you. He's mad about you. He wants to spend time with you. He wants you. A few years ago, we were going through a lot of stuff, a lot of personal stuff. And God was giving me a peace which passes all understanding. And this is a note to you married folks. Sometimes God will give one of you peace. Now, it's not that he's not offering it to both of you, but one of you takes it and the other one don't. But that's kind of where we were. And I had a peace which passed all understanding because the situation that was going on looked crazy. I will give you a little bit about it. My house had sold, and I had 3 days to be out of my house, and I had a truck loaded with my house and nowhere to put it. And my husband was stressing. God moved us into a house twice the size of the house we moved out of in those 3 days. Move forward 5 years. It's time to move again. Time to move again because when you work in West Covina and your husband works in Monrovia and you live in Chino Hills, that's one way to get closer to God because you pray through that traffic every morning. But we needed to move, and my husband was just stressed, and God was giving me peace. And I went to God. I went in that moment, and I said, Lord, please, whatever needs to happen, I just don't want to watch him go through this anymore. I can't watch him be this stressed. I can't see him hurt like this. You have to do something for him. And the Lord said, I got it. And I was like, okay, and? Where's the rest of that? I'm waiting on the rest of it. And I was constantly praying. And every time, all he gave me was my little piece that I was supposed to hold on to, that he had it. And I kept going back, going, Lord, please, just help him. Please, just. And the Lord kept saying, I got it. Now, some of you have heard me tell this before. But what happens is I work in IT, so that means that West Covina pays me to work on computers and my friends bother me to work on computers. It's not really a bother, but I thought since most of them are watching, they might get a little jab out of that. But he uses me to help and assist others with their computers. So my girlfriend called me, she goes, can you please come and give me a hand? So I go over there, and she has no idea. I hadn't talked to her in about 3 months. She didn't know anything that was going on. And we get there, and I'm working on her machine, and she goes, oh, I got something for you. And I said, oh, okay. She runs in the room, and she comes out with this bag. And when I opened the bag, I pulled out a coffee cup. And Kim, can you put that up there? That's the cup. I got this signed God. Now, my husband thought I wasn't dealing with anything with what we were going through. My friends were going, you should be, aren't you upset? Aren't you nervous? Aren't you worried? Aren't you? No, I wasn't. And it wasn't that I was putting on a show. It was because God's got this. And he gave it to me in a signed note on my favorite beverage, a coffee cup. He knows me well. Fast forward 3 weeks ago, a little more than 3 weeks ago, about 4 weeks ago now. I was going through some health challenges. And Yvette, because I told her I was going to use her name, who is one of the most amazing administrative assistants on the planet, and she works for our department. And she came and she stood in the doorway of my office and she goes, Ronnie, I was praying for you all day yesterday, but it was weird. And I said, what was weird about it? She said, all God kept saying was, I got it. And I started to laugh. And then I told her the story that I just told you. But that story of I got it signed God could be the story of Moses. Because Moses was worried about what he was going to do. God said, come up here and be with me because I got it. Just so you know, what Moses got were the total, complete instructions for moving a nation through the wilderness. And if you've ever tried to take a family vacation with 4 people, you know the challenges that Moses was talking about. God gave him the instructions for the tabernacle. He gave him the instructions for how the people should camp. He gave him the instructions for how they should disassemble the camp and move out marching. He gave him everything he needed to lead those people through the wilderness to the promised land. Everything. Because he took that moment, that opportunity to go up and be with him. Now, here's a little Ronnie side note for you. When you go up to the Lord and you take your junk, your hurt, your pain, your confusion, your questions, take them up to him and leave them there. What most of us do is we go up in prayer, and whether it's your closet time prayer or whether you're in a prayer line to receive prayer, what most of us do is come up and say, Lord, this is my issue. And we come up with 2 giant suitcases, and sometimes it's a giant suitcase and a trunk full of stuff. We drag it up, and it hits the floor. And we say, Lord, this is my issue. And we sit there and we talk to him, or we receive that prayer. And when the prayer is over, we say amen, we bend down, pick up the suitcase, and walk away. Leave the suitcase on the floor. Let that be a visual to you. When you go to pick it up to walk back with the problem, you just imagine Pastor Ronnie in a suitcase. He wants you to leave those problems there because he's giving you the answers. The truth is, guys, we weren't designed to carry the junk that we carry. Moses was not designed to carry the weight of that nation on his shoulders. His father-in-law showed up and told him part of that. And then God gave him the rest of the answer. I don't know today what your question is. I don't know what your hurt is. I don't know the mistake you think that is beyond the pale of forgiveness. I don't know any of that about you. But your Father does. And he's asking you to give it to him. He's asking you to come up and be with him. 5 minutes. Start there. You don't have to start with the 5 hours. You can start with 5 minutes of just, Lord, here I am. And just so you know that you wouldn't be the first one to say that, we have one of the greatest prophets in the Bible. God called him, and he thought that it was the high priest calling him. And the high priest said, no, I didn't call you, go back. And he called him again. He goes, no, I didn't call you, go back. And he kept hearing Samuel. So finally the high priest figured out it was God calling him. So the answer that he gave him is one that applies to you. He said, the next time you hear it, say, yes, Lord, your servant is listening. And if the last part of the servant is listening is a little long because you're in the middle of madness, the answer is, yes, Lord. Just, yes, Lord. And he will begin a journey that I promise you will absolutely blow your mind. You can think of the greatest thing that you would love to see happen in your life, and you will not be close to what God wants to do with your life. Not even close. If he were to show us, all of us, what he wants to do with us, in us, and through us, he'd have to drag us from under the bed. We would have way more excuses than Moses had. There'd be claw marks in the carpet because it would terrify you. But that's because he's not calling you to do it by yourself. He's calling you to allow him to do it through you, to do it with you, to do it in you and for you, because his love for you is unconditional. Don't tell him what you did wrong. He saw it. Now, I'm not saying don't repent. So don't say Pastor Ronnie said don't repent. If you make a mistake, Lord, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And accept his forgiveness. Receive that forgiveness and move forward. But don't use, I went to jail. Don't use, I'm not a good parent. Don't use, my parents weren't there for me. Don't use, I went to a bad school. Don't use a human excuse that might be good enough for me, because it's not an excuse that he is willing to accept. An excuse, ladies and gentlemen, is a tool that a fool uses to build monuments of nothing. That's all it is. You will build a skyscraper to nowhere on an excuse. What I want to call you to now is to remember that no matter what issue you're dealing with, God's got it. No matter what you're afraid of, God's got it. And he knew before he laid the foundation of this earth that you were going to be where you are today. As a matter of fact, he looked down and saw you and was willing to send his son so that you could be reunited with him. And that means he saw every mistake you made, every imperfection. You know, for those people who are struggling with perfectionism, God didn't make you perfect. If he made you perfect, you wouldn't have no room for him. You're flawed and you're broken, and there's a big space in your heart that is only God-shaped. Your spouse can't fill it. Your wallet can't fill it. Your friends can't fill it. Alcohol can't fill it. Drugs can't fill it. Nothing can fill that space but the God who loves you unconditionally.